Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Andrew Yang, and we're going to talk about a new understanding that I have come to of the Septuagenarian Trinity and Biden, Warren, Sanders, and what it means for Andrew Yang and what Andrew Yang should do now that we have a better understanding of the Septuagenarian Trinity and what they actually stand for and what they mean for the future of America and the future of Americans. All right. So first and foremost, I want to thank everybody for your patience. I understand listening to my channel is a little different than listening to a lot of other channels, right? I approach my political commentary through intellectual refraction. So, basically I look at politics by refracting politics off the light of the things that are in my life. And by comparing them, I think I get a better understanding. I feel like we understand things when we compare them to other things we understand well. All right? When we are trying to understand something that's incredibly complex and that might be a little distant from us for any number of reasons, if we compare them to things we have a lot of knowledge about, the intellectual refraction between those two things can really help understand the complex thing. And I'll say right now, American politics are probably one of the most complex things in the entire world, right? It's incredibly complex. It's one of the things that's so attractive to me. I delight in complexity because I play board games and tabletop role-playing games. I grew between the age of 12 and 18, I played a huge amount of Dungeons and Dragons. The Dungeons and Dragons I played required 1,000+ pages of reading, and it just pushed me into this world of delighting in complexity, and that's one of the reasons why I'm so attracted to American politics. This is one of the few things that are more complex than Dungeons and Dragons, right? So here's the thing. I've been one of the reasons why I'm thanking you for your patience is I've come to a new understanding of the Septuagenarian Trinity. So for quite a while, Biden, Warren, Sanders really frustrated me incredibly, a lot, right? And I was like, hey, these people are a decade or are between 4 years and a decade past the age of retirement, right? Bernie Sanders is 12 years past the age of retirement, and Biden is 11 years past the age of retirement, and Warren is 4 years past the age of retirement, okay? It's significant. It's a lot, right? So, and that really frustrated me, right? Because I was like, hey, it's time to retire. These people shouldn't even be in the race. They should be retired, right? And, I labor a lot. I work very, very hard. I routinely work 10-hour days, and when it's necessary, I work longer than that, right? To drive toward a goal, to get things done, right? So one of the things that was on my mind recently is just hard labor, right? And when I was thinking about it, I was thinking about the Septuagenarian Trinity and, Biden, Warren, Sanders, and I realized it was an epiphany to me that of what they really are standing for with their actions. So one of the things that's also becoming very clear to me is Tom Steyer is really important for this, right? One of the things I realized is in this election, candidates are saying two things. They're saying something with their action and something with their words. Sometimes they align, but a lot of times they don't, right? And I realized that Warren, Biden, and Sanders are all saying the same thing. They're all saying it with their actions, but they're silent on it with their words, right? But I'm hearing them. I'm hearing what they're saying, and I have to say, I have a growing respect for this new message from Warren, Biden, and Sanders, right? And what that message is a full, hard rejection, right, of work-life balance and an utter, absolute dedication to work resolve, right? So basically, when you're an American, you have two choices. You can you can labor, you can work, you could strive toward a work-life balance, right? Like where you work and you work real hard and then you play real hard, or you work and then you rest, right? Or you can just adopt work resolve, right? Now, I have adopted work resolve. I work a lot, and I really drive toward goals, right? I have done everything I could to develop a skill set where whoever's in the employment role for me, I am going to, it's always the same, no matter who I'm working for, right? What is the goal? How do we achieve that as swiftly as possible with as few resources as possible? And the reason why I adopted this is it's incredibly invaluable to companies, and it's allowed me to do well in my career, right? And I have a work resolve. Now, I will say this. My wife is incredibly understanding, and she has really, my spouse, has really aided me in doing this, right? And we work together. She's very understanding because we watch a lot of movies, and I'll see this situation where one spouse is working real hard and the other spouse is like, why don't you spend more time at home, right? And I'm like, holy cows, that person is working really hard to bring home the bacon for the family, and the other spouse is really on them. And I just don't have that situation, right? My spouse is incredibly thankful for me bringing home the bacon for the family, and I'm very blessed in that way, right? So because I do feel bad for people who work really, really hard, and then their spouses are unhappy with that decision, right? That's got to be grueling, right? But one of the things is, since I am on the work resolve side, I've never strived for work-life balance, right? But there are a lot of corporations that have been talking about this, right? That have been saying, hey, we offer work-life balance here, right? Well, one of the things that's really fascinating that I now realize is that Warren, Biden, and Sanders are all hard rejecting work-life balance. And they are 100% embracing work resolve, right? And the DNC has given more support to the Septuagenarian Trinity than any other grouping of candidates. And so the DNC is also embracing work resolve over work-life balance, right? And at first, I was like, is that a good thing? But then I realized, I'm okay with this, right? Because one, I will say this, it has been challenging to me listening to people who are saying, hey, I want work-life balance, and then kind of looking side-eye at me when I'm there when other people aren't, and it's frustrating, right? So, and one of the things that's really cool now is the Septuagenarian Trinity are doing something incredibly important and really quite shocking, right? Bernie Sanders is saying, listen, as Americans, work resolve, we work until we literally die, right? You work, and if you have a heart attack, you better get back to work, right? That is the standard as a leader that he is setting for the nation, for every adult American. He's saying, you work until you die. And if you have a heart attack, you had darn well better get back at the desk within a week or two. I did. What are you doing? You slacking off? And I have to say, I'm down, right? I'm like, holy cows, right? This really is a new understanding for me, because the reality is I am incredibly competitive, right? People who know me are used to this, but people who don't know me, they're shocked when I say this. I will frequently say, you win this conversation, or I will say, I win this conversation. And frequently people will be like, especially ones who don't know me, they're like, this conversation wasn't a competition. And I was like, not to you, right? I am incredibly competitive, right? And frankly, I don't run into people who are more competitive than me that often. But I now realize when it comes to work and labor, right? Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, and Joe Biden are setting a new standard for labor, right? And they're giving a hard, full, red, white, and blue American rejection to work-life balance and saying America is about work resolve. And here's what that means. One, you work until you die, right? Now, I actually have had this modeled for me. Someone I care about very, very much did exactly this, right? Well into their late 60s, past the age of retirement, someone I care about, someone I know, literally went to work, died the next day, right? So I've seen this done, right? It can be done, right? And I had thought about this. I was like, someday I'll be sitting in a rocking chair. I wonder what I'll do then. Now I don't have to worry about that, right? But Bernie Sanders is setting the new American standard for labor. You work until you die. And if you have a heart attack, you'd best get yourself back to the desk right quick, right? And I have to say, that is straight baller American. That is as red, white, and blue as it gets, right? And I'll tell you, I came over for President Obama. There was no way I came over from the red side. I changed my Republican registration to vote for Obama twice because there was absolutely no way in the world I was gonna not be part of electing the first American that was a minority, right? There was no way I was gonna miss that opportunity, right? And I didn't, right? And then as soon as Obama was done, right, I went right back to my Republican registration, right? But I switched it for Andrew Yang. And the reason why is there's no way in the world I'm going to let one of the smartest people who's been born on the dirt of America, which is Andrew Yang, who's bringing a new economic model that I think will actually fix the vast majority of problems in America and most likely the world, right? There's no way I'm gonna miss the opportunity to vote for Andrew Yang, right? But I will admit, when I am on the Democrat side, there is some really soft stuff, right? That as a red-blooded American, I'm not real happy with, right? But this is very, very, red state, like cheeseburger eating, big block pickup truck driver, like hard American labor example, right? And just look at the example that Biden, Warren, and Sanders are. So follow it all the way through, right? 1, you work until you die. If you have a heart attack, get back to work, right? Look at what Biden is setting up, right? Biden is saying, hey, so Biden in 2016 did not run for the election because he had a child die. He was literally grieving, right? And so he had considered it, and he said, you know what, I'm still in my grief stage. I don't really want to run, right? But then in 2020, he looked back and he said, okay, Obama had gotten all this momentum. I squandered it. I now recognize and acknowledge that this political hellscape that we're currently in because of Donald Trump is my fault. So even though I'm still grieving, right, I'm going to come and I'm going to take on the heaviest workload I've ever had in my entire life when I am 77 years old and still mourning the death of a child, right? That is crazy red, white, and blue American pure baller determination, right? It's like life events don't matter, right? We labor past our grief. We labor past our sorrow, right? And I will say, shockingly, on the blue side, in the Democrat side, I am seeing the way I was raised. My father absolutely set the same example. I can't even, somebody had to explain, when I got to college, someone had to explain to me what sick days were, right? Because, where you're sick and you don't go to work, because I had never seen one in my entire life, right? I had never, ever seen my father call out sick once. I didn't even know what a sick day was. I learned it when I went to college, right? And I have to say, and now my father is very much on the red side, right? He is conservative, right? And he set a conservative work example. So the fact that the Democrats are now the Septuagenarian Trinity, the top 3 leading Democrats right now, are giving a hard rejection of work-life balance and are embracing work resolve. I have to say it is shocking and actually a little refreshing, right? Because I don't need to worry about working too hard anymore. Soon that's going to be the example for every single American. Now, one of the other things that I have to admit, like the Septuagenarian Trinity, they get so many points for this, right? And I have to say, even in my own heart, my own heart and mind, the Septuagenarian Trinity are gaining points against Yang because of this, right? So, okay, Biden and Sanders are working really hard, right? Well, we have a problem in America, right? For a long time, we were very gendered, and we said, hey, hard work, right, and labor, men work hard and just labor, right? And we really weren't setting that example for women as well. But here, Elizabeth Warren is coming right alongside and making sure that this hard Democrat rejection of work-life balance and a new red, white, and blue American Democrat embrace of work resolve is fully gendered, right? Is for men and for women. Now, we of course do need it for the other genders as well. We don't have those, genders beyond man and woman represented in this election. It's likely we will in 2024, right? And we can have people exhibiting this for other genders beyond male and female in 2024, right? But Elizabeth Warren is saying, yes, I co-sign and I set the example for women as well. We all labor till we die. We all ignore life events. We all reject work-life balance. We all embrace work resolve. And this is what makes America great. This is why America has soared past every nation in the world, right? And, and I have to admit, right, I've been really hard on the Septuagenarian Trinity because I didn't really understand what they were trying to do. But I am hearing their actions, right? And I have to say, I'm down. Like, I'm in for it. Let's do it, right? Let's work till we die. Let's reject work-life balance, right? Let's ignore life events and just continue to labor through them. Let's ignore grief. Let's ignore sorrow, right? And the reason why is, I love this country and I love the flag, right? But when you have a dedication to labor that says you work past a heart attack, that says you ignore your own grief and you keep working, that says doesn't matter if I could be spending time with my children and my grandchildren, and every single one, Warren, Biden, and Sanders, they're all embracing this, and they're setting a new model for work for Americans, right? Which is work resolve. Work till you die. Absolutely ignore every single life event that happens. Work through your grief, right? And I have to say, man, that is hardcore American. And frankly, I got to admit, that makes the Republicans look soft, right? I mean, if you want to roll hard for labor, there's no better way to do it than this new, absolutely new, and I've never seen this before. This is new, right? This idea that, that work-life balance is fully rejected and work resolve is the new American standard for labor, right? So now we understand what the Septuagenarian Trinity actually stand for, right? What does Andrew Yang do about it? Well, one, I think he should start thanking them for setting this example and also explain to Americans, what they're doing. Because, and the thing is, I understand why Warren, Biden, and Sanders are not saying this out loud. They can't, right? Because it makes them look too baller. It makes them look just too cool, too dedicated, right? Too try hard, right? If you call attention to your own self, that's arrogant, right? But Andrew Yang can call this out for Americans and say, listen, if, and can say, I'm now acknowledging what Warren, Biden, and Sanders really stand for. A hard rejection of work-life balance and a very, very close embrace of work resolve. And then he can say, now, listen, everybody, all Americans, this is going to be incredibly challenging for us. Many of us have been working with the idea that when we got to be 66, we would travel, or maybe we would take extra time to pet our dogs and our cats. Maybe we would spend time with our grandchildren, right? But now Biden and Sanders and Warren are setting a new standard for Democrats, are taking labor and saying labor belongs to Democrats, and soft retirement, lazy retirement, right? That's for Republicans, right? But in the Democrat side, we labor until we die. We ignore life events. We work through our grief and our sorrow, and retirement is ignored, right? Like, this is the new reality. But Andrew Yang, I got you covered, right? You know what will help with the problems that might come with this new drive and some disappointment for not being able to rest when you're 66, $1,000 a month. It makes freedom dividend even more valuable, right? Now, I have to admit, every single one of the Septuagenarian Trinity, now that I fully understand what they actually stand for, they have gained some points on Yang, right? Now, the reality is, where's it fall, right? So I think Yang has about 220 points in my heart and mind, and Biden, Sanders, and Warren each had about 10, and their new standing adds about 5 to that. So I would put Biden, Warren, and Sanders all at 15, which means they're gaining ground on the 220 points they need to get. Now only 205 points, right? If all of them gain another 205 points in the next 10 months, I'll vote for one of them, right? But I have to admit, this is pretty baller. This is incredibly American, right? And I will say, everybody who's like me, who just like is drive, right? Like just really, really competitive and likes to labor, you're all going to love this, right? You know, they all are. And we will, and one of the things too, we as Andrew Yang supporters, we do need to be very loving and kind, and we need to kind of help people understand what Biden, Warren, and Sanders actually want from Americans, and tell them, hey, you know, if you know this model is already being set, even if they lose, this is set, right? Like, this is the new standard for work. This is the model that Democrat leaders are showing, right? But all of it will be it will be far easier with $1,000 a month, right? You can buy insoles for your shoes, right? You can make your food a little more quality, right? You can buy better coffee, right? Because you're going to be at your desk 10, 12 hours a day, and you'll never stop. You'll be at that desk until you die, right? It's a really very unusual take, right? Andrew Yang's still the man. He's still on the top. But I have to say, I'm really fascinated by this new understanding of the Septuagenarian Trinity and what they're actually saying with their actions, not with their words. All that's my opinion. I'd love to hear your opinion on it. Please let me know in the comments below. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.